Okay, hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to my channel for another Saturday live stream. Today, we're looking at First Chronicles 10 to 13. And lest you think the Tanakh is treading old territory, yes, it is. We've had King David in Samuel, we've had King David in Kings, and now we have him in Chronicles. So, yeah. Hey, Lisa. So, yeah, definitely retreading territory. Don't know why. No idea why. But anyway, but before we get on with um, Saturday live stream, um, I would like you. I would like to invite you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already subscribed. If you are subscribed and you know that you like what I do, please consider becoming a member of this channel. Can become a member for as low as 99 cents a month. And I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm tripping over my words. But anyway, I am. So sorry about that. Also, I do have a Patreon. Don't have anything up in Patreon yet. Well, I do have a welcome video in Patreon, but that's about it. Um, so yeah, as soon as I get some patrons, I will be doing some patron only content over on Patreon. Um, Also, I've started putting some of my videos on DTube, I think it's called. So if you know, um, not all my videos, because I don't have all my videos in download format. And in order to download videos from YouTube, I have to get YouTube Premium, which I cannot afford. So, let's see. Oh, and if you become a member, you get custom emojis, and you also get um, my debunks at least one day early, usually 2 days early. And so that's all the announcements. And before we get into Saturday live stream, I would like to do comment of the week. And today's comment of the week goes to Fish Head Salad. Adam in Hebrew actually means earth, as in soil. It comes from the Hebrew word Adama, which makes sense according to Genesis 2, verse 7. So, yeah, I am sorry about that. It was my bad. I totally made a mistake on that one. Um, so anyway, um, and now getting into what we all came for. Really, Selena, I didn't know that. You'll have to tell me about that later. Okay. Let me make sure I'm sharing. Okay, and I am. I don't have much on DTube yet, but a lot of the stuff I have on no, all of the stuff I have on DTube is on YouTube. So that's another thing. Um so anyway, so let's go on. Um we're in First Chronicles 10 to 13 today. And this is where Saul, you know, himself, so trigger warning. Alrighty. Now the Philistines fought against Israel. The Israelites fled before them, and many fell dead on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines were in hot pursuit of Saul and his sons, and they killed his sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua. The fighting grew fierce around Saul, and when the archers overtook him, they wounded him. Sorry about that. Okay. Uh, verse 4. Come on. Jesus fuck. Just a minute, guys. My computer wants to be bitchy today. First Chronicles. Then to 13. And we'll pick up where we left off. Verse 4. Saul said to his armor bearer, "Draw your sword and run me through, or these uncircumcised fellows will come and abuse me." Don't think that needs translated. But his armor bearer was terrified and would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. That doesn't need to be translated either. When the armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he too fell on his sword and died. So Saul and his 3 sons died, and all his house died together. And that's supposed to be a good thing? That's supposed to be a good thing. Hey, Robert. Hey, Mr. Shadow Kitty. You know, no matter how bad a person is, my feeling on the subject is, they don't deserve to die. That's just my feeling. And we can disagree on that. That's fine. But, it's just that, that's my way of thinking. Okay, so moving on. Verse 7. When all the Israelites in the valley saw that the army had fled, and that Saul and his sons had died, they abandoned they abandoned their towns. Sorry, I can't read today either. I can't talk or read. Sorry about that. And fled. And the Philistines came and occupied them. So I've got a question. How did they see that, they were the army was dead or fled or whatever you want to call it? I mean, come on, get a grip. How is this in any way appropriate for children? How is this in any way appropriate for children? I don't get that. Verse 8, the next day when the Philistines came to strip the dead, they found Saul and his sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They stripped him and took his head and his armor and sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines to proclaim the news among their idols and their people. They put his armor in the temple of their gods, and they hung up his head in the temple of Dagon. When all the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all their valiant men went and took the bodies of Saul and his sons and brought them to Jabesh. Then they buried their bones under the great tree in Jabesh, and they fasted 7 days. Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. He did not keep the word of the Lord and even consulted a medium for guidance and did not inquire of the Lord. So the Lord put him to death and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse. Okay, so if you remember earlier in whether it was Samuel or Kings, I can't remember, the only thing Saul did, the only thing Saul did was let the people take some of the animals of a war, which back then was, pretty common. You get the spoils of war. That's how it goes, you know. Of course, that's not how it is nowadays, but back then it was common practice. So anyway, so Saul let the people keep the animals, and God got mad. And because God can't use his words like a big boy, he sent, and yes, let me reiterate, God sent an evil spirit to inhabit Saul, so that this evil spirit sent from God himself would make Saul do other things that pissed off God. So instead of God, using his words like a big boy, like I said earlier, God's just going to make Saul do things that piss him off even more. Yes, that's true. So I'm not getting this. How was Saul unfaithful because he let the people keep the animals and also didn't kill the king? And that made God so mad that he fucked Saul up so that Saul did things that pissed him off more. I think you need language. Um, I think you need communication classes, God. All right. All right, let's get through this. Chapter 11. All Israel came together to David at Hebron and said, "We are your own flesh and blood. In the past, even while Saul was king, you were the one who led Israel on their military campaigns. And the Lord your God said to you, you will shepherd my people Israel, and you will become their ruler. When all the elders of Israel had come to King David at Hebron, he made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel, as the Lord had promised through Samuel. Okay, but I'm confused. Yeah, right, Lisa? Didn't Wasn't King David already anointed king when Samuel came to him? I mean, didn't Samuel anoint him? So I'm kind of confused on that. Anyway, moving on. At least this week I have more to say because we're not reading fucking genealogies. All right. Verse 4. David and all the Israelites marched to Jerusalem, that is Jebus. The Jebusites who lived there said to David, you will not get in here. Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, which is the city of David. Okay. Another problem that I have to point out here is in Genesis, Abraham went to Salem, not Salem, Oregon or Salem, Massachusetts, but Salem over in the Middle East, which is now called Jerusalem. Okay. So, yeah, I want to know that too. Why'd they have to anoint him a second time? So anyway, um, so, um, so Abraham comes to Salem and finds a high priest of God there called Melchizedek. And so what happened? Did the Jebusites overtake Salem and rename it Jebus? And then after David took Jebus, he renamed it to Jerusalem? Not sure on that. I mean, the Bible could be a little more clear on this shit. Come on, do better. Especially since you're supposed to be the all-knowing God, you know? But anyway, moving on. Verse 6, David said, whoever leads the attack on the Jebusites will become commander in chief. Joab, son of Zeruiah, went up first, and so he received the command. David then took up residence in the fortress, and so it was called the City of David. He built up the city around it from the terraces to the surrounding wall, while Joab restored the rest of the city, and David became more and more powerful because the Lord Almighty was with him. Okay. Not really sure how true this is. We don't really have history from that time that we found, written history from the time that we found. So we have to go on archaeological evidence, and as far as the archaeological evidence shows, either there was no Saul or he was more of a chieftain than a king. And we get on a little more stable ground when we talk about David. Now, that does not mean we are totally on solid ground when we talk about David. Remember, this is theological, it is not historical. So, you know, like I said, we get a little bit firmer ground when we get to King David, but we know King David existed, you know. So, anyway, moving on. These were the chiefs of David's mighty warriors. They, together with all Israel, gave his kingship strong support to extend it over the whole land, as the Lord had promised. This is the list of David's mighty warriors. Jashabeam, a Hakmonite, was chief of the officers. He raised his spear against 300 men whom he killed in one encounter. I very much doubt that. If you're using a spear, I can see it being done if you're using like a gun, but not with a spear. Come on. Get more realistic if you want us to believe this shit. Verse 12. Next to him was Eleazar, son of Dodai, the Ahohite, one of the three mighty warriors. I just love these names. Ahohite, Dodai. I just love these names. They're like really, whatever. All right. Verse 13. He was with David at Pasdammim when the Philistines gathered there for battle, at a place where there was a field full of barley. The troops fled from the Philistines. But they took their stand in the middle of the field. They defended it and struck the Philistines down, and the Lord brought about a great victory. 3 of the 30 chiefs came down to David to the rock at the cave of Adullam, where a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. At that time, David was in the stronghold, and the Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get me a drink of water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem." So the 3 broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out to the Lord. "God forbid that I should do this. Should I drink the blood of these men who went to the risk of their lives, because they risked their lives to bring it back?" David would not drink it. Such were the exploits of the 3 mighty warriors. Okay, this story makes no goddamn sense. At least to me. Let me know if it makes sense to you. David, why the fuck are you saying out loud that you want a drink from the fountain of Bethlehem if you didn't mean for your men to go get it? And then to add insult to injury, these men who risked their fucking lives so you could have a drink from the well of Bethlehem, you poured out in disrespect of these men. Hey, Private Wars. So, I mean, It doesn't make any sense to me. If anybody can make sense of this story, please let me know. Because it doesn't make any sense. All right, verse 20. Abishai, the brother of Joab, was chief of the three. He raised a spear against 300 men, whom he killed, and so became as famous as the three. He was doubly honored above the three and became their commander, even though he was not included among them. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, a valiant fighter from Kabzeel, performed great exploits. He struck down Moab's two mightiest warriors. He also went down into a pit on a snowy day and killed a lion. Okay, and we need to know this, why? Just a minute. Gotta wet my whistle. All right. Why do we need to know that he killed a lion? Come on. At this point, it just seems to me that these idiot Bible writers have, like, okay, so you know how in college, you have a um a length that your paper has to be, say, like 10 pages. That you can go beyond 10 pages, but it at least has to be 10 pages, right? So what I did is, I pretty much say what I got to say, and then I shut up about it. So to get my 10 pages in, I'm go back and I explain in a different way, you know? So that's what I did to get my 10 pages in. So I wouldn't get docked for not having 10 pages. I don't know, maybe. But anyway, it seems like these people are just putting in words so they get their 10 pages. That's my point with that story. All right, moving on. Verse 23, and he struck down an Egyptian who was 5 cubits tall. Although the Egyptian had a spear like a weaver's rod in his hand, Benaiah went against him with a club. He snatched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. Okay, show of hands. How many think this is strangely akin to the David and Goliath story? I wonder why. All right, moving on. Of course, we can't have anybody eclipsing David. So, Benaiah has to have a spear and Benaiah has to have a club and not a slingshot. All right. So, anyway, moving on. Verse 24. Such were the exploits of Benaiah, son of Jehoiada. He too was as famous as the 3 mighty warriors. He was held in greater honor than any of the 30, but he was not included among the 3, and David put him in charge of his bodyguard. The mighty warriors were Asahel, the brother of Joab, Elhanan, son of Dodo from Bethlehem. I love that name, Dodo. Shamath, the Herorite, Helez, the Pelonite, Ira, son of Ikesh from Tekoa, Abiezer from Anathoth, Sibbecai the Hushathite, Eli the Ahohite, Maharai the Netophathite, Heled son of Bana the Netophathite, Ithai son of Ribai from Gibeah in Benjamin, Benaiah the Parathonite, Hurai from the ravines of Gash, Abiel the Arbathite, Asmaveth the Baharumite, Eliabah the Shalbanite, the sons of Hashem the Gizonite, Jonathan son of Shagi the Hororite, Ahiam son of Sakhar the Hororite, Eliphel son of Hefer the Mekerathite, Ahijah the Pelonite, Hezro the Carmelite, Neri son of Ezbai, Joel brother of Nathan, Mibhar son of Hagri, Zealot the Ammonite, Naharai the Berothite, the armor bearer of Joab son of Zeruiah, Ira the Ithrite, Gareb the Ithrite, Uriah the Hittite, Zabin son of Allah, Adina son of Shiza the Reubenite, who was chief of the Reubenites, and the 30 with him, Hanan son of Makkah, Joshaphat the Mithnite, Uzziah the Ashtarothite, Shammah and Jael the sons of Hotham the Aurorite, Jediel son of Shimri, his brother Joha the Tizite, Eliel the Mahavite, Jerubai and Joshaviah the sons of Elnam, Ithna the Moabite, Eliel, Obed, and Jeziel the Mesobite. Okay. Take a deep breath. Hate it when I have to pronounce these names. By the way, if you're ever reading this shit, which I don't know why you would ever read this shit, but if you're reading this shit just for fun, my suggestion is just, call him Bob. Most of them have the same goddamn name anyway. It's like you can't figure out another name for these people. I understand that. I understand that at this time it was probably common to have these names. Yep, they sure do. All right, moving on. Chapter 12, we're almost there, people. These were the men who came to David at Ziklag while he was banished from the presence of Saul, son of Kish. They were among the warriors who helped him in battle. They were armed with bows and were able to shoot arrows or to sling stones right-handed or left-handed. They were relatives of Saul from the tribe of Benjamin. Ahiezer, their chief, and Joash, the sons of Shema, the Gibeathite, Jeziel and Pelet, the sons of Asmaveth, Berekah, Jehu, the Anathothite, and Ishmael the Gibeonite, a mighty warrior among the 30, who was a leader of the 30, Jeremiah, Jahaziel, Jehonan, Josabad, the Gederathite, Eluzai, Jeremoth, Biliah, Shemariah, and Shephatiah the Heraphite, Elkanah, Ishiah, Azarel, Jozer, and Joshabeam the Korahites, and Jola and Zebediah the sons of Jeroham from Gedor. Some Gadites defected to David at his stronghold in the wilderness. They were brave warriors ready for battle and able to handle the shield and spear. Their faces were the faces of lions, and they were as swift as gazelles in the mountains. Ezer was the chief, Obadiah second in command, Eliab the third, Mishmana the fourth, Jeremiah the fifth, Attai the sixth, Eziel the seventh, Johanan the eighth, Elzabad the ninth, Jeremiah the 10th, and Machbani the 11th. These Gadites were army commanders. The least was a match for 100. Yeah, you're going to have to convince me of that one. And the greatest for 1,000. Again, yeah, right. It was they who crossed the Jordan in the first month when it was overflowing all its banks, and they put to flight everyone living in the valleys to the east and to the west. Other Benjamites and some men from Judah also came to David in his stronghold. David went out to meet them and said to them, "If you have come in peace to help me, I am ready for you to join me. But if you have come to betray me to my enemies, when my hands are free from violence, may the God of our ancestors see it and judge you." Then the Spirit came on Amasai, chief of the 30, and he said, "We are yours, David." Oh, great. I'm not even going to say the S word because totally demonetized if I say that word, but I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is a great book, isn't it? Totally moral book. We are with you, son of Jesse. Success, success to you, and success to those who help you, for your God will help you. So David received them and made them leaders of his raiding bands. Some of the tribe of Manasseh defected to David when he went with the Philistines to fight against Saul. He and his men did not help the Philistines because after consultation, their rulers sent him away. They said, "It will cost us our heads if he deserts to his master Saul." When David went to Ziklag, these were the men of Manasseh who defected with him: Adnah, Jozabad, Jediel, Michael, Jozabad, Elihu, Zelathai, leaders of units of 1,000 in Manasseh. They helped David against raiding bands, for all of them were brave warriors, and they were commanders in his army. Day after day, men came to help David until he had a great army like the army of God. Okay. Again, my mouth is getting kind of dry, so gotta wet my whistle. All right, moving on. Verse 23. Whoops. Verse 23. These are the numbers of the men armed for battle who came to David at Hebron to turn Saul's kingdom over to him as the Lord had said. From Judah, carrying shield and spear, 6,800 armed for battle. From Simeon, warriors for battle, 7,100. From Levi, 4,600, including Jehoiada, leader of the family of Aaron, with the 3,700 men, and Zadok, a brave young warrior, with 22 officers from his family. From Benjamin, Saul's tribe, 3,000, most of whom had remained loyal to Saul's house until then. From Ephraim, brave warriors, famous in their own clans, 20,800. From the half tribe of Manasseh, designated by name to come and make David king, 18,000 from Issachar, men who understood the times and knew what Israel should do, 200 chiefs with all their relatives under their command. From Zebulun, experienced soldiers prepared for battle with every type of weapon to help David with undivided loyalty. 50,000 from Naphtali, 1,000 officers, together with 30,000 men carrying shields and spears. From Dan, ready for battle, 28,600. From Asher, experienced soldiers, prepared for battle, 40,000. And from east of the Jordan, from Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, armed with every type of weapon, 120,000. All these were fighting men who volunteered to serve in the ranks. They came to Hebron fully determined to make David king over all Israel. All the rest of the Israelites were also of one mind to make David king. I highly doubt that. The men spent 3 days there with David, eating and drinking, for their families had supplied provisions for them. Also, their neighbors from as far away as Issachar, Zebulun, and Naphtali came bringing food on donkeys, camels, mules, and oxen. There were plentiful supplies of flour, fig cakes, raisin cakes, wine, olive oil, cattle, and sheep, for there was joy in Israel. Okay. One more chapter, people. One more chapter. All right, one more chapter for today. Ready for this? Yeah, Lisa, right? All right. Chapter 13. David conferred with each of his officers, the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. He then said to the whole assembly of Israel, if it seems good to you, and if it is the will of the Lord our God, let us send word far and wide to the rest of our people throughout the territories of Israel, and also to the priests and Levites who are with them in the towns and pasture lands, to come and join us. Let us bring the ark of our God back to us, for we did not inquire of it during the reign of Saul. The whole assembly agreed to do this because it seemed right to all the people. So David assembled all Israel from the Shihor River in Egypt to Lebo Hamath to bring the ark of God to Kiriath Jearim. David and all Israel went to Bala of Judah, Kiriath Jearim, to bring up from there the ark of God, the Lord, who is enthroned between the cherubim, the ark that is called by the name. See, I thought God was supposed to be universal, but apparently not. Apparently he's trapped between the cherubim on the Ark of the Covenant. Just thought I'd point that out. No real reason. All right, moving on. Oh, this is another disgusting story. Verse 7, they moved the ark of God from Abinadab's house on a new cart with Uzzah and Ahio guiding it. David and all the Israelites were celebrating with all their might before God with songs and with harps, lyres, timbrels, cymbals, and trumpets. When they came to the threshing floor of Kidon, Uzzah reached out his hand to steady the ark because the oxen stumbled. The Lord's anger burned against Uzzah, and he struck him down because he had put his hand on the ark. So he died there before God. It's like, what the fuck, God? He was just trying to make sure it didn't hit the ground. I mean, come on. What the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, well, I know what's wrong with you. I mean, you're not real, but I mean, according to this fucking book, you're a fucking monster with bloodlust. No, I haven't, Lady Selena. All right. Okay, verse 11. Then David was angry because the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah, and to this day that place is called Perez Uzzah. David was afraid of God that day and asked, how can I ever bring the ark of God to me? He did not take the ark to be with him in the city of David. Instead, he took it to the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The ark of God remained with the family of Obed-Edom in his house for 3 months, and the Lord blessed his household and everything he had. Okay, show of hands. How fucked up is that story? How fucked up is that story? And I'm not just talking about the last story I read, I'm talking about all of it. This is one fucked up book from beginning to end. And people think this is, quote unquote, the good book. People actually think that this fucked up book is the quote unquote good book. You know what? Fuck you. If that's the kind of God I have to serve to get into heaven, and I don't believe that this God exists, but if that's the kind of God I need to serve to get into heaven, you can have heaven. And no, I don't give a goddamn whether or not you threaten me with hell or not, because hell is just that. It's a threat. It's an empty threat. You don't know until you die what happens after death. So don't you dare try to threaten me into following this goddamn awful God, and by extension, follow you and give money to you so that you can preach, so that you can brainwash more people to serve this fucking awful God, and by extension, you, and give you money. Okay? Don't don't tell me about that. Don't tell me about that. You know, this is one fucked up book. And if you don't see that, well, you know what? If you don't see that this is one fucked up book, I hope that someday you do. I hope that someday you do. You know, somebody in one of my Saturday live streams accused me of cherry picking. Seriously, they accused me of taking the verse out of context. And you know what I do in my Saturday live streams? I read the fucking Bible in, not all at once, but, I read it in context. How can I be reading something how can I be taking something out of context if I'm fucking reading it in context? That just blew my mind. Yes, Lady Selena. Okay, so, um, anyway, if you like this, give it a like. If you, um, haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you already have subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed. YouTube loves unsubscribing people for some reason. Also, if you have the financial wherewithal, please consider becoming a member. You can become a member for as low as 99 cents a month. You get custom emojis and early access to my debunk videos. So, um, yeah, I know, Lisa, right? Let's see. I've been to the Church of the Nazarene, not too often, but I have gone. I've gone to the Catholic Church on a few occasions, not very many. I've attended the Church of Christ. That's the one that doesn't have any music at all because of, they believe that it's evil to have music in church because of, is Israel's idolatry when, Nebuchadnezzar had all the instruments playing, and then all the people had to bow down before the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. And you know you know um been to the Mormon church. I'm still a Mormon technically. I did study with the JWs, although I never went to the JW church, but I did study with them. They had the audacity to fucking insult my cat. So you know what I did? I threw them out. I said, get out of here. Didn't tell them why, but they could probably guess. You don't insult my fucking cat. Now I've got two, so, But at that time, I only had Callie. And, so whatever. It just, whatever, you know? I mean, it's like, really, why do you take these stories seriously? And even if you did take these stories seriously, why the fuck are you worshiping that kind of a monster of a god that would do that kind of shit? And hey, I'm getting on to the old me too, because I used to be Christian. I used to be Christian. So I'm getting on to the old me too. I'm like, how the fuck did you not see this before? Anyway, yeah. It's a pretty fucked up religion, huh? So, anyway, hopefully I'll have my debunk out tomorrow for my members. It might come out on Monday, but I'll try to have it up by tomorrow. Um, so have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you guys later. Bye. Oh, Logic is coming on tomorrow. As far as I know. That was my big surprise. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to ruin it just in case he needed to reschedule. But he has not rescheduled. And so tomorrow at noon Mountain Time, which is 11 my time, I will be interviewing Logic. And if you have not subscribed to Logic, subscribe to Logic. He's really cool and he does a bunch of cool stuff. So, anyway, so yeah, I don't think you're gonna want to miss that. I think it'll be great. Um, you know, he's a cool cat. I mean, he just is. So, anyway, um, and we'll be back on schedule next Sunday for the Christianity is a False Religion series. Tomorrow, I'm just doing my Logic interview, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.